cool action scenes. The action scene in the car when they go back to retrieve the clip.
Yeah.
And the two rogue cops like try to take it from them, and then there's the shootout, and they get in the car, and the car is bulletproof.
And she's like, "Don't worry," and then they fucking set it on fire. And he's like, "We got a couple minutes before or any second now the
gas tank
is gonna go," and so she fucking guns it off this like pier dock thing into the water below, and obviously it puts out the fire, and she goes to the, I think it's like the trunk or something, to grab like a 12 gauge shotgun, and they blast their way out of there.
It's such a fun action scene. That flaming car driving off the pier is like one of the last shots of the actual trailer for the film.
Mm-hmm.
But that scene is so great. There's a great shootout. There's a great chase with them chasing the limo. And, you know, Lenny's completely frightened, and she's just super cool, telling him that, you know, stay calm. I know what I'm doing. I think she has a great line where she's like, you know, this is what I do. And then, you know, they're shooting up the car, and Lenny's getting scared, and she's like, don't worry, the glass is bullet resistant. And there's that funny line where he's like, whatever happened to bulletproof?
And as these guys are getting closer, it's like the windows are starting to shatter and everything.
Yeah, because things are bullet resistant and bulletproof for only so long, you know. And then they pour gasoline on it, light it on fire. She drives off the pier. But there's a funny line when they hit the water, they hit the bottom of the hit the bottom of the bay. And then Nero is like, Jesus Christ, are you out of your fucking mind? And she just turns to him and looks at him and says, the fire's out, isn't it? And then there's another fight scene. There's two fight scenes. Because if we haven't established yet, this movie takes place on the last 2 days of 1999. The majority of the film takes place at night. They shot something like 77 out of 80 days, 80 shooting days at night. And for everything, there's so much that's happening in the film. You have to remember, like, this is all taking place over the course of, like, basically 2 nights. So, like, the last almost 2/3 of the movie takes place on New Year's Eve. So there's, like, a couple of fight scenes. There's, like, the fight scene where they're in the club, and Lenny gets assaulted again by the 3 henchmen. Well, 2 henchmen and 1 henchwoman of Philo Gantz, and he gets the bottle of champagne smashed over his head. And then the guys are trying to beat him up again, and then Mace comes in and saves him. She has the gun at that point, sticks it in their face, and then they run off. And then there's the same thing happens like a few hours later at the party, where they're chasing her through the kitchen, and then she pulls the gun on them again.
That's right.
Like they didn't learn their lesson the first time. But there's that funny line where she pulls the gun on them in the kitchen. You know, the woman pulls out the knife, and Mace sticks the gun in her face, and the woman just says, enjoy the party. And then they all fuck off. But she's so goddamn good in this movie. I wish she had more like real ass-kicking scenes, or ass-kicking movies like this. We talked about Sizemore, who is Bigelow's boy because he's in Blue Steel. Have you ever seen Blue Steel?
That sounds familiar.
With Jamie Lee Curtis, Ron Silver?
I think so, yeah.
It's a low-budget movie. It did not do well at the box office. It was actually made by, I want to say Vestron, which was like a video company.
Yeah.
And I think they dissolved just before the movie was supposed to be released, so I think MGM ended up picking it up. Good movie. But Sizemore's in that. In a brief cameo. He's got a cameo in Point Break He's the undercover DEA agent at the house.
And he's like, you think I like this hair, man? You think I like these clothes?
Isn't he pouring like beer on like the cereal or something when they go to raid the house?
Yeah.
So he'd worked with Bigelow a couple times before, so he's in obviously a much bigger role in this film. Pretty sleazy himself. He's got like the really long, like gross blonde hair.
Yeah.
In the film.
Very Dog the Bounty Hunter.
Yeah. Playing a PI who's tied up in all this too. Wincott, who's really good in the movie.
He's also in The Crow, right?
Yep. He's also in The Crow. He's the villain in The Crow. I just saw him recently. Have you ever seen the movie Hitchcock? With Anthony Hopkins as
yes.
Hitchcock?
Yes.
He's Ed Gein. Michael Wincott is Ed Gein, who the whole Psycho is based off of Ed Gein. Yeah, I mean, not the whole plot, like point for point, but
that's like the genesis.
Yeah, the genesis of the plot for Psycho, both the book and the film, is Ed Gein.
That's the same for Texas Chainsaw Massacre, right?
Mm-hmm. D'Onofrio, who you mentioned, and Will Fichtner, they're both the rogue cops, both great.
Oh yeah,
in it.
D'Onofrio is always great in everything. You know, I don't think he's done too much stuff, but everything that I can remember, he was great in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I have to go back and look and see what movies he's in around that time.
When was Full Metal Jacket?
87.
87.
So that's, what, 8 years before Strange Days?
Yeah, because he's pretty young in that one.
They're both great in it. There's a really good, like, right off the bat in the movie, you know, it starts off with the clip we've already talked about, the robbery.
Oh, but, the Irish...
yeah, the Irish chase at the very beginning.
In the subway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where it has Lenny talking about the clip and everything, and then after he leaves, dealing with Tick, who's like his fence, after he leaves that, it like immediately cuts to this chase in the subway, which is great because there's nothing that established it. You have no idea what's going on or who these people are, just this woman being chased through the subway, which is another just great action scene, and these two cops are chasing her. And then there's a great shot of her, like, as the subway train is about to pull away and the doors are closed, and she runs and, like, manages to jump into the car just as the doors close. And then they're chasing her and shooting at the car.
I think D'Onofrio's character, like, breaks the window and grabs her from the inside while the train is moving.
Yeah.
And he's like, you fucking bitch, or he's grabbing her by the hair. It's super brutal.
It's brutal. Like, she jumps, she makes it into the train, and then he's chasing the train, but she's on the opposite side, so he goes to shoot her through the glass, and then she moves underneath the window, but then he smashes the window and he grabs her.
Unrelentless.
And the only thing that kind of saves her is she pulls away from him, and turns out that it was a wig. And under the wig is a squid device, so she was recording whatever it was. And what it ends up being, as we find out later on, is the murder of Jericho 1, who is very critical of the police. Like I said, he's talking about what's going on in the city and what's not right and what's not fair and those disparities. And calling out the police, and the conspiracy is this random traffic stop ends up getting him killed and executed, and the two girls that are with him and his friend one of them is killed, and then Iris is the second girl who ends up running away.
And then his friend is killed as well.
Mm-hmm. So they're after Iris because she's had recorded.
Yeah, she's the witness.
She's a witness, but she also recorded
everything.
And they're trying to not get this tape out. So I just blew our big reveal of the movie.
That's okay.
But that's okay. We're always all over the place sometimes.
My question for you is, are we supposed to believe, or is this a plot hole, they're basically like mini DV, bright tapes, I guess. And they clearly jump into the water, and Nero had given the cops some bullshit one. You know, acting,
him and Faith in the hot tub, one of his favorites, according to him.
And then so he pulls it out from his pants or whatever. He's like, "Oh, here's the real one," but it was all wet. So are we led to believe that they're waterproof, or it's like a CD, where it doesn't really damage it?
I would guess so, because they're mini discs. Maybe it is a plot hole. Maybe just suspend your disbelief for the film.
I was just curious if you thought about that too.
No, I think about anything when you jump in the water. How it fucks it up. Even if you don't have a watch that's made to be underwater or get wet, it can fuck up your watch.
That's a good segue into he is really trying, like, he uses his Rolex to try to get out of everything. Don't worry, man. I got this Rolex. Here, take it. And then he just has an extra,
he has like 3 or 4 extra ones in the briefcase.
And then one of the cronies that you had brought up, like he tries to pawn it off. Nero's like, "Here, take my Rolex, man. Just leave me alone." And then he's like, "Oh, is this force resistant or whatever?" And then he just slugs him with his own Rolex.
Which is the third watch he loses in the film. Because at the beginning, when his car is getting towed, he tries to use the watch to keep the tow truck driver there for a few minutes so he can run inside and grab cash to pay him off.
Who immediately
takes off. That's why he ends up calling Mace in the beginning. The second time, he tries to use it to buy off the bodyguard, the running back, the XLA Rams running back, which is another time capsule moment because the Rams used to be in Los Angeles in the early 90s. And I think 95 was their last season in LA. The Raiders and the Rams, they left both after the 95 season, I believe. It was either 94 or 95. I want to say it was 95, though. But they're like, oh yeah, running back for the Rams, like 96 to 97. But as it turns out, the Rams were already gone from Los Angeles in 1996 and 97. So the future that movie was trying to establish with at least the football in Los Angeles didn't exist anymore. But he tries to pawn it off to him, who says, "Oh, nice, but I got a real one." And then the third time, he he loses it to the guy that uses it to punch him. And I'm pretty sure he's wearing a fourth one for the climax of the film. So yeah, his watches, and it's funny because he opens up the briefcase and you can see there's like a couple more in there.
And then his briefcase is like bulletproof, I guess.
Yeah, his briefcase saves him because D'Onofrio tries to shoot him in the face.
Yep.
At the yard just before that chase.
Because he says like, "All right, we'll give you the tape, but you gotta like let us go." And then the cops are like, "Oh yeah." Like they were gonna fucking kill him.
Yeah, as soon as he gives him the tape, D'Onofrio turns the gun on him and tries to shoot him, and the briefcase saves him, and then Mace happens to...
And the junkyard dog attacks one of the cops and distracts them.
Yeah.
And allows for them to get the jump on these guys.
And then Mace ends up shooting D'Onofrio, which is cool because she falls to the ground and pops like right back up with a gun and, shoots him.
But he has a
vest on. But that's the beginning of that great chase, which turns into the car driving off the edge of the pier into the bay. We're all over the place tonight.
Yeah.
So what? This movie's rad.
Yeah. There's I love that scene when they get to the what is it called? The impound lot, I guess. When the dog comes out to see what they're up to, and Mace just fucking maces the dog in the face and
doesn't even hesitate either,
just right away. And then Nero is like, "Oh, what a great attitude changer," or something. Great line.
After they escape, the burning car, they go to her friend. I think it's her sister's house, or they go to her house and her sister is there.
With her kid?
Yeah, and